was working for the drinks brands, met a guy a few weeks after we got married. My house gets raided. He gets arrested and taken to prison. Just like, yes, getting there with my career, I've had a baby, I'm getting married. And then everything was knocked sideways again. I'd got to a point where I just didn't want to work for anyone anymore. Like, I know how to do things better and no one's letting me do it.
You took ownership, you had a more than rubbish, horrific situation. And then you turned that into action. God, I have so many questions. Like, you are just a wealth of experience and knowledge.
If a man's got 20% of the skills on a CV, he will apply for a job. If a woman's won't do it unless she's got at least 80%.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest thing that I would say to anyone and everyone is just fucking do it. So, hello, Kate.
Hello.
Today, I'm actually going to be handing the mic over to Kate. So this episode is really about me. Woohoo! Always wanting to be the centre of attention. Come on. I want to give you guys some context as to who I am, but I have invited the fantastic Kate, who ironically I met at MadFest, and I just interviewed the MadFest founders for the podcast this morning. So Kate is going to actually interview me so that you guys can have some context on who I am, what I do, why you should listen to me, why I know about marketing, and humanize myself a little bit, give you a bit more insight into Katie, because mainly on the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing other people. So today it's all about me because why not?
Why not?
So I'm going to give you a bit of context on Kate first, and also just really want to confuse you to have Kate and Katie. Why not? The Kate Show. And we're both if you're watching this, we're both wearing black. We both have blonde hair. So I just really want to confuse you with this first episode as well. So Kate and I met at MadFest a couple of years ago. She is a speaking coach and, actually, Kate, you introduce yourself.
Oh, here we go.
Better if you do it yourself, right? Tell us a bit about you.
It changes every time, to be honest. But a storyteller is what I keep telling people.
Oh, I like
that.
this.
Right? Because then people are like, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because I was saying speaking coach and they're like, oh, I know somebody with a speech impediment, which is not quite what I do.
No.
It's a bit more about navigating your narrative and helping people, tell their stories. I want to get people talking and sharing more. That's the big objective.
That is why you're perfect to be doing this. So Kate's going to navigate you guys through a little conversation with me, which hopefully will help you learn a little bit more about my story. So, Kate, I'm going over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, firstly, I feel very honoured to be in this position. Because does it feel weird? Being the interviewee.
I'm like sweating. I really enjoy doing this. I don't know if I prefer being interviewed or being the interviewee, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with this and hopefully be real, vulnerable, open about my story.
Well, that is what I love about you. I have to say, I was thinking, what I love about you is that just raw, genuine authenticity, which you bring in buckets and spades all the time. And that's what I implore when I coach people to do. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Thank you, firstly. And so let's get stuck in then. So tell me why. Let's start with the why. Why did you go into the line of work that you're in?
The honest truth is that actually I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school. So I had, I come from a very middle class family but my mum had bipolar. But we didn't know at the time. She'd had a nervous breakdown when I was 11 or 12. Not just a normal, I don't know how you say, normal nervous breakdown. There is no such thing as a normal, but not like a breakdown. She had a psychotic breakdown, straitjacketed, really, really poorly.
Wow.
I wasn't seeing my dad at the time, which is very sad. I'm very close to my dad now. Not anything to do with his fault. That's another big story. I'm not gonna open that can of worms right now. Maybe one day. And I had quite a controlling stepfather. And I just didn't like living at home. So I moved out really, really young. I therefore, it wasn't a great environment at home. It wasn't bad. I just wasn't happy there. So as soon as I could move out of home, I moved out of home, which meant, because I'm one of the youngest in the school year, I actually moved out I think when I was about 16. It's like, when I look back now, that is
so
so
young.
young. And I actually, I mean, this is going, like, I don't know how relevant this is, but we'll get there. We will get there. So I actually moved into a hostel, and it is kind of relevant, which felt really weird because, like I say, very middle class family, lived just by sandbanks in a beautiful, big house. Like, it was very normal. But I didn't want to live at home anymore. So moved to a hostel, and then got a job because I needed to earn money. But I was doing an apprenticeship at the time. So maybe I was older than this. I don't know. In my head, this is how it happened. It might be slightly out of sync. But I needed to get a job. So I was doing an apprenticeship, didn't really know what I wanted to do. So just studied business. I was doing, I think, a couple of days at college a week, 3 days in a lawyer's firm, so a solicitor's practice, and just working. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I was turning 18, I was getting some inheritance. Nothing, I mean, I'll put the figures on it just so, because it kind of makes sense. I was getting £11,000. My nan at the time, sadly, she died shortly after this when I was 17. So this I'm fast forwarding to the point that I'm 17. I've finished my apprenticeship. I kind of start working at the solicitors a bit more full time, but they weren't really paying very much. My nan was like, look, why don't you're going to get this money when you're 18. Why don't you just buy your own place? You've got then your security. You can't fail with bricks and mortar. You'll have, you'll earn money on it. And I did, and the forward story is that I did. So I needed to get a job where I earned more money to get the mortgage. So I needed, I can't even remember, I think I need, not very much. I was lending like 40 grand. So it was a tiny mortgage. The house, the flat that I bought was
those were the days, eh?
I know. The flat that I bought was like 56,000. So yeah, I was lending like 45 grand. And found, I must have back in the day, like looked in a newspaper or wherever and found this advert and went to interview for a place called United Advertising, which happened to own Exchange of Mart magazine, and for a kind of sales rep, on the phone, filling in ads for people selling their car, basically. Got the job, went through and I was young, I was only 17, so I was probably one of their younger staff members, but knew I needed to have the job for 6 months to get the mortgage, as soon as I turned 18. So really, it was totally by accident, but that job was the grounding of my whole career, and I absolutely loved it. So I stayed there till I was about 20, 21, 3 or 4 years. I ended up being the top salesperson across the whole business, across London and Poole, which is where the 2 offices were. Their first ever field sales rep.
Of course.
Yeah.
Expect nothing less.
Yeah, of course. So as soon as I passed my driving test, I was out. It enabled me to buy the flat that I ended up living in and making great money on. So my journey wasn't one really necessarily of choice, but by luck, because I never knew what I wanted to do anyway, by luck, I landed in this amazing job where they went through quite a rigorous 2-week full-on training, but you weren't even allowed on the sales floor until you'd gone through this sales training. And it was scripted, all that jazz. They sent me downstairs, and I, when anyone starts, they're put on the personal, people selling the private sales kind of side of things. So anyone who's selling their car. So I went down, literally within a week or two, they were like, you're really good. We're going to move you over to work with the traders, with the motor traders. So then I moved across and I was in a team, and that whole experience for me, because I was writing the ads, giving them a bit of personality. I was taking the calls. I was upselling to the traders oh, come on, you must have one more car for me, because we used to get bonused on that. We had deadlines. We used to do these really long days on a Monday. I just absolutely loved it. Everything about it was so me. So that was a really great starting point. And from there onwards, I guess I have stayed working in and around advertising. So then worked for another smaller kind of startup magazine, which then took me to London. Then I worked for, at the time, it was EMAP, now Bauer Media, and I worked on FHM and some really cool, all the male titles basically, which was a really great experience. And I was then selling to agencies, usually kind of, the large agencies selling, big ad campaigns. And then from there, I went to work for a drinks brand, which gave me kind of client side experience, but still in kind of sales and marketing roles. And that was, I guess, I'd worked traditionally in advertising sales up to that point. Then I started to kind of delve into a bit more of the brand stuff and the marketing. And actually, I worked for a really cool drinks brand called Pernod Ricard. They paid for me to do my postgrad in marketing, which I, if I'm honest, never finished. I think I've got it on LinkedIn saying that I've got a diploma in marketing. I actually never fucking finished the diploma.
Love the honesty.
So don't have a diploma in marketing, but did study it, and just got hands-on experience. And I think the whole way through my career, like that job working for the drinks brands was amazing. And we were sponsoring parties. We were, I got to go to the Take That reunion tour. I went to Live 8 at Hyde Park. Like the things I got to do working for that drinks brand and the kind of experiential human marketing side of things that I did was just amazing. And then, this is a really fast track story.
No, I'm loving it.
And I'm not sure if it's explaining the why, because the why basically is because I just needed to earn some money.
But that's good. You had a motivator, right?
Yeah.
And that's the first thing. You've got to have a goal and something that motivates you and drives you. But you've mentioned a few things which are interesting. Right? You mentioned luck.
Yes.
So I actually don't believe in luck.
Ooh.
I believe we create our own fate.
Yes.
And you've just shown there it was your attitude. You've obviously got a ridiculous attitude. You've come from what you just outlined. I hope it's not normal. That kind of,
Not.
trauma
Yes.
that you experience. And we've all experienced trauma.
Yes.
Can't be weighed or measured. Everyone's got different trauma. So I definitely think that people can relate to in some capacity of some of the things that you've been through. But the fact that you turned that around and made it a positive and then went after something is incredible. It's the attitude. I say that whenever I hire somebody, attitude is so difficult to teach.
Yeah.
Skills, yes, fine, you can do that. But clearly you had that go-getter attitude.
I think that's, that is what, let's be honest, sitting underneath all of it, it's kind of fear that probably drove, I don't even know if it is fear, but like it's the fear or the knowing no one else is going to fix all of this for me. Like my mum's ill, like I don't really see my dad. Like there's no one else that is going to make this life happen for you. There's no one sat in the background with a mansion that you're going to live in. Like you've got to do this because no one else is going to do it for you. And I think me and my brother are very, very driven because of that trauma. I'm not going to go into the detail of the trauma. That would be hours of podcasting. Take
one
years
day
to tell the story.
A book, perhaps.
Yes, maybe. But yeah, so basically I so agree with you. And actually, there's so much research on this. And I'm not saying that you have to have had a really shit, tough life in order to, be a successful business person, because that certainly is not the case. But for me, that obviously has been a big driver. It's given me the get up and go. I know that I need to go out and get it for myself because no one else is going to be there to do it. And I definitely, this is probably a bit deeper and a psychological podcast, but I've almost had a life where things have kept coming and like knocking me sideways. So I was working for the drinks brands, met a guy, decided to move back to my hometown. So I was in London at this point, moved back down, had a baby when I was 25, got married when I was 26. Few weeks after I got married, my house gets raided and he gets arrested and taken to prison until my daughter was 7. So he got 12 years. So
you couldn't write it, could you?
Literally, yes, getting there with my career. I've had a baby, I'm getting married. And then everything was knocked sideways again. So it almost kind of was like, reminder, Katie, you've got to fucking own this shit. Like, don't get married and think someone's going to look after you because they're not. So basically at that point, I then had to start again from fresh. So I hadn't got a job, or in fact, I was working, but like part-time. They sacked me because my husband went to prison.
They sacked you because you are
nice, yeah.
That's not allowed, surely.
Well, that's what happened. And then, so I had to go out and get a job. I had students living in my house to, make sure that I could pay for everything. I literally remember days where I couldn't. The things that happened and the way the police treated me, like I had like financial restrictions put on my bank account. So I could only take out X amount of money per day. They stopped all my payments going out. I had to go, and I was arrested as well. I had to go and, it was absolutely horrendous. I had to go and sign in at the police station twice a week, which I forgot to do twice. So I got arrested twice.
Sorry, well, but this isn't even anything to do with you.
Yeah, I know. But by association, it was because they were saying, well, maybe I was embezzling money or help.
Okay.
I don't know, embezzling
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I was potentially aware that
Assisting
there was
or
criminal
whatever.
money going on and blah 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 blah.
Wow.
So so it was absolutely like totally brutal. And yeah, I had to at that point just start everything from scratch again. Like I say, I was raiding bloody my daughter's money box just to pay for nappies. It literally had no. So I had to go and get a job. I had to get students, and I had to start again. And that is, I guess, that was probably the start of the real part of my career, which has led me to where I am today. So, and I guess when the entrepreneurial Katie really started to come out. So first up, there's loads of things that happened at this point. So I went and got a job for another drinks brand because I was like, that's what I was doing kind of before. It makes sense. So went and got a job with a drinks brand, which was great. It was okay. I don't think I was on mega money, like 30 something grand. I've got a company car, blah, 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 blah. So went and did that. Then I was like, I had this like itch in me. And actually, me and my ex-husband had written a business plan about doing a football festival. And so randomly, I then went into business with Mark Redknapp, with obviously Harry's eldest son, and another lady called Julie, who funded it all. And we launched this football festival, which was amazing. We were smashing it. We were like the marketing side of it. We were getting press in the Sun. Like literally, I was like, "This is it. I've made it. This festival's going to happen." We didn't get planning permission, and the whole thing fell on its face.
No.
The investor probably sunk like $250,000 into it. We had to return people's money. Oh, it was an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. So then I was like, shit. So obviously, in between that point, I had to leave my job at the drinks brand and start up the startup. Anyway, so then that stopped. And then I'm trying to think what actually happened after that point. What jobs did I get? That's when I found the kind of agency world that I have, I guess, spent most of the last 12, 13 years of my career, because my daughter's now 15 next month.
Wow.
So 14 years on. So that was like the first year or two. 14 years on, I then moved to, this is a very like quick fire version of events, but I then moved to working for kind of creative digital marketing agencies, leading new biz marketing for them, because that's what I do. And I love the agency world. Is great for me because I probably do have ADHD, but it enables me to have lots of, do lots of different things and have lots of ideas, because if I'm just doing one thing, I get bored. So I mean, it's definitely symptoms of ADHD in there somewhere. So that kind of, ability to jump around, have lots of different ideas, come up with different campaigns or whatever it might be, worked really, really well for me. So I did fantastically well, became quite well known within the, marketing agency world as, being really good at new business marketing. And then eventually set up Street, which is, I guess takes us all the way through, which was there are other little businesses that I set up in between, like freelance marketing that I was doing and other things. But eventually got to the point where I set up Street Agency, and now I have this podcast, and that kind of almost, without the Street Agency story, brings us up to date.
Amazing. God, I have so many questions. Like, you are just a wealth of experience and knowledge. I bet I could learn a million things from you just off the back of that. But I just have to say, first of all, amazing. Thank you for being you. Taking ownership, right? And it seems like you've had about 3 or 4 lives going on there. You've had to reinvent yourself and point yourself in another direction. Right, okay, start from scratch. Let's go again. Wow. So that resilience, that bounce back, that elasticity you've shown is incredible. So kudos to you. You're incredible.
You,
and I guess, so what was the tipping point with Street?
Well, as in to go and start to start the business.
Yeah.
I think I'd got to a point where I just didn't want to work for anyone anymore. Like
Mm.
I was getting frustrated because I couldn't make the decisions that I wanted to make. And
Right.
people would be like going, no, you can't do that. Or we haven't got budget to do this. And I was like, oh, I know
Mm.
how to do things better and no one's letting me do it. So I
Mm.
just got really bloody frustrated
Mm.
and just wanted to go. And I didn't want to have a boss, didn't have anyone telling me what to do. Actually, one of the other things, which absolutely hasn't happened, and my daughter will laugh if she listens to this, is I thought, I want to have a better work-life balance and spend more time with my daughter. That kind of hasn't happened. I was like, yeah, running my own business, I'll be able to choose. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Well, maybe it does for some people, but for me, I always want more. I'm always striving for more. I always will want to go the extra mile. I'll always want to do a brilliant job. So, I tend to go OTT rather than the other way round. So unfortunately, my lovely daughter, well, she does get more time with me. I definitely get more flexibility because I get to, and especially now she's older and at school and gets the bus and all that jazz. I'm able to go to the gym every morning or go for a run. And I do, that kind of workout regime is super, super important for me. So I think I just got fed up with not being able to live the life that I wanted to live, not be able to make the decisions I wanted to make. And I couldn't see any way around it. I couldn't see a way forward with me being employed by anyone. So went out and just thought, right, I need to get a couple of contracts on a retainer. And that is, I know that if that pays me more, same or similar to what I'm on now, actually it ended up that I got a couple of contracts and it started paying me about 10 grand a month from day one. I was like, boom, excellent. I'm earning more. I'm actually not having to work as hard. I would think I was doing like 4 days a week, but on the other day I was doing other stuff to do with the business to help it grow. So I was, contracted in to kind of almost freelance for a couple of agencies for like 3-4 days a week that paid me 10 grand a month, and that's where it started from. And it wasn't actually supposed to be an agency at first. It was just really supposed to be contracting, and then
it just blossomed.
It grew legs, and it is the business that it is today.
I love it, but tell me more about that, because I guess there might be some people listening today who have got that right. They don't want to work for somebody else. They might have a great idea or just feel pulled towards something, and making that leap's quite difficult, isn't it? It can be challenging. So I guess, what was your strategy around that?
Yeah, good question. Do you know what? I didn't have a massive strategy. And I think this is really important. I didn't really have a plan. And I think lots of people worry that you've got to have this grand master plan. And when I did the football festival, to be fair, we had a business plan, and depends what kind of business you're looking to go and launch. But for what I was doing at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted it to be. I just knew I was good at doing this. I knew I could do it, and I knew people would pay me decent money to do it for them. So I just did it, and it's really that simple. There was no plan for the business. There was no marketing plan. There was no sales plan. Of course, we do all of that now, but at that point, I was just I know how to do this better than most other people, which is why I've done well in my career. So I can go into businesses and sort out their new business marketing strategy, which will enable them to attract and win more new clients. So that's literally what I did. I just went and spoke to people and was like, I know how to solve this problem for you.
I love it.
You're doing it wrong. Let me come and fix it. And that's, I mean, of course, like I say, today we do have a business plan. We have marketing plans. We've got growth plans. We've got, all of that is now in place. But that didn't hit, on day one. So I would say my biggest piece of advice to anyone, don't have a plan, but just fucking do it. Yeah, JFDI. Literally, if you've got an idea and you feel passionate about something, we've spoken about this.
Take action.
It's about taking action. You have to. No one succeeds in life by
sitting on the bum.
Yeah,
watching
you don't.
TV.
Life isn't, and I think that's probably a huge part of my story. Life isn't gonna come and I mean, it will sweep you along if you don't do anything. But I am not scared of change. In fact, I embrace and I love change. And I think those kind of the harder times that I've had in my life is where I've grown the most, although it doesn't feel like it at the time. It's where I've been really upset recently about an ex of mine. And I don't want to be with him, but he's moved on, or seemingly. And, that's made me really upset. But then I was like, actually, that it's not about him. It's about that's something to do with me and my childhood and my other,
I love
traumas.
that though. You're introspective.
Yeah.
Like you want to look at yourself and be like, hang on a second, ask those questions. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah. And do you know what?
Love that.
It's so hard because I think in my 20s and 30s, I'm 40 now, literally just, so not like just five, just saying. I was 40 last year. I much preferred it when I could say I was 39. Anyway, I am 40, but I think in my 20s, I was just striving. I mean, there was just bombs going off constantly. So, I was just striving. I was getting through. I wasn't really thinking. And actually, I had really bad anxiety back then. Like now, I don't have anxiety because, I do sometimes, but I know how to deal with it. And I know how to manage myself and understand myself.
Yeah.
And I know, although I have to remind myself, as we all do, when those times are tough, that is taking, like, I'm such a big believer in that's what takes you and helps you grow. If
100%.
life was so easy all the time, running a business is tough. We've had ups and downs at Streets over the past 4 years. But, when the tough times happen, that's when I learn the most.
It's an opportunity.
Such an opportunity.
And build in the time to actually, I'm like fascinated. When I have those, drops, I'm like, right, brilliant. This is an opportunity to learn. Let me ask all the questions, sit down, journal it all out.
Yeah, but you're
brilliant.
so good. I feel like we're quite similar like that. Like we were both on holiday, weren't we, over Christmas? I was in Tulum. Where were you?
I was in Guatemala and Costa Rica.
That was it. Oh my God, I really want to go to Costa Rica now because it just looked amazing. But going on those kind of retreats, I went to a health fitness retreat in Mallorca last year. Like, I'm really starting to spend more time connecting with myself because at the end of the day, going back to what I said at the beginning, I only, we come here alone, we leave alone, sadly. Like, I need to be happy. I need to be doing the things that, I feel are giving back to the world. I think in your 20s, you're often quite not selfish, but you're caring about your own career. You're trying to make it in the world. And then you get a bit older and then you're like, well, what can I give back? Like,
So
what's my gift? How can I help other people? And I love this podcast for me is brilliant because I get to interview amazing people like you. So Kate was on my last podcast. You're definitely, which, oh my God, got an award for yesterday. We got Best New Business Initiative for Word on the Street, which is the podcast.
Massive congratulations.
Yeah,
very well deserved.
Oh my God, so much. It was a real labour of love. But what we have learned on that kind of podcasting journey is so much. And what I've learned is how much I enjoy uncovering, these kind of stories. So the new podcast is going to go really deep, but we're going to be interviewing kind of females on their kind of journeys and also businesses. Like, how can we empower women? And this is what I really want to give back. This is probably the key thing that I think I can give back to the world. How can I empower or help highlight stories about, other women that are either female founders leading their way within a business or their career. They might be a CEO of a business, whatever it might be. But how can we, because I think there's something like only 5% of UK businesses are founded by women.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous.
I want to know why as well.
Ridiculous.
Let's dig into the crux of that.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
I know.
Why?
Well, do you know what I think it is? And this is, I've discussed this with someone else who's also going to be on the podcast. I think it's a lot to do with our own limiting beliefs.
100%.
Men are so much more bolshy than we are. There's a stat that says, and I can't remember, in fact, I'm stealing this from Amelia Sordell, who is coming on the podcast soon. But it's something like, or maybe it's not Amelia I'm stealing this from, but she said something similar. 80%, if your man's got 80% of the skills if a man's got 20% of the skills on a CV, he will apply for a job. If a woman's won't do it unless she's got at least 80%.
Yeah.
Like, men are so much more ballsy. They just don't, like, I am probably quite an alpha woman, so I'm quite ballsy and I will boast and put myself, like, I've always been like that in my career. I'll make myself known. I'll make sure, I know that I need to play the game. I know that the CEO needs to know what I'm doing and evidencing what I'm doing. Like, I would email them going, this is what I've done. This is what I've achieved. Look how fucking great, amazing I am. Because men do that all the fucking time. And us women don't do it. So we don't get that promotion.
Yeah,
so we don't go for that job. So we don't go and found that business. So I think if there's one thing that I can do in my life, that's one thing that I would really love to give back to the world. But also, what's super important to me, and which is, this podcast is called Marketing in the Madness. The big thing that I really want to uncover is all of the different things that you can do to help grow your business, whether you're an employee or you are a founder of a business or, a joint MD, whatever it is. You're going to be able to do so much more if you can discover the new things, the different things, the innovations that are happening. So I'm interviewing brands, I'm interviewing influencers, I'm interviewing female founders on all the things that are different, that not just different, also the things, also the things that are normal, but what are people doing? What's working? What should you be doing in order to do brilliant marketing that's going to get you cut through and help you succeed? So there's kind of two things, I guess, I want to give back to the world, is giving people the ability to learn in a really fun way, and hopefully the podcast will be interesting and fun to easy to listen to. That was some of the commendations that I got yesterday actually for the last podcast. Is it made it fun. It's not just like this is a lesson and it's going to be really boring and you've got to listen to some old guy maybe teaching you something like you're at school. Like the whole point in me doing this podcast is to make uncover the interesting things, but to make it fun to listen to.
In stories.
Exactly.
That's what I love.
Telling stories.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Because then it's you're learning, but you're having fun while you're learning.
Exactly.
Yeah, isn't that what we all want to do?
Exactly. And you're right. This is exactly what I teach, is going back to being brave enough to do those things. We need to know self. And it's those limiting beliefs that gets in the way. This is exactly the work that I do, is helping people conquer those limiting beliefs and walking them home.
Yeah.
Remembering their true nature, who they truly are. Which fascinated me. I'm going to take it back to what you said about yourself, is you were like, you just believed in yourself.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like, where did that come from?
That's an interesting question. I have no fucking idea. I don't know why I believe myself. I definitely do have this inner, I don't know, maybe I'm slightly narcissistic.
No.
But I do believe it. I don't think I am narcissistic. I've done lots of therapy and I don't think that is what I am. But I do have confidence in myself. Like, I know that I can rely on myself.
I love it. And that giving back as well, I think that's also really important. It's like, some people just take, but it's like, oh, what can you put back in? Yeah. It's a circle, it's life cycle.
Totally.
Life cycle, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
Right, it's what we're here for. So, that's what you're constantly thinking of, like, how can I give back? And I love it. So there were the two things you want to give back. I'll remind us.
Yeah, so two things are, one, giving, and this is so important, especially as I have a daughter, giving women, females, girls, the confidence to go out and get what they want. Don't be scared. If you back yourself and just go and ask for it, go and do it, make yourself known, make yourself heard. Like, if you don't, it's not going to come. You have to have the confidence. So one is, I guess, empowering women and telling them my story, because I'm no better than anyone else. I just often have had, hopefully I'm good at my job, but I've often just had the confidence and put myself in places that will help me grow and learn. So one is giving females the confidence to go for what they really want.
Well, you are a massive inspiration on that point, that first point, because you are a single mother, smashing it in this business world, right? And that is, we need to be inspired and have those people to look up to so we can start modeling behavior. And I'm sure there are many people out there, many men and women, looking at you going, gosh, you're successful. How do I get that same success? Like, what things do you do that I can do too? So that's brilliant. So that number one, empowering people. Yes. And then what's your second?
And I guess it's still around that empowerment, but giving them the knowledge. So really giving people insights, different approaches, making them aware that there's loads of different ways that you can, marketing and sales to me is absolutely essential for life. Yeah. It doesn't 100%. Even matter if you're not, hopefully most people that are listening to this that either work in marketing or sales, and that's why they're listening. But everyone needs to market and sell themselves.
100%.
Like, everyone that you meet, you are selling yourself. Like when you need to negotiate something.
Even in a relationship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who wants to do the washing up? No.
Dating. Yeah. Like,
change the nappies.
Exactly.
You can do that.
Yeah.
How do we negotiate?
Yeah, exactly. Like everything is, you're marketing yourself and you're selling yourself. So I think giving people, the psychologies that sit behind that, why they should do things, the hints, the tips that will help them, grow in their careers, but, grow a good business. It could be anything. So empowering people with the knowledge to do a great job at, selling their business, selling themselves, whatever it might be.
I love it.
I'm not like training prostitutes here. I mean, not selling yourself like that, but what we just said.
Yeah, life is a sales pitch. That's what I always say. Yes. Doesn't matter what environment you're in. It is storytelling as well, which is why I love this. Yeah. It's brilliant. But we talked about bravery, right? And being brave and just having that confidence. I think that word just be confident. I'm like, what do you mean just be confident?
How?
I just flick the light switch on, shall I?
Yeah.
So in that sense though, there's got to be some things that scare you. Are there?
Do you know what? I was really thinking about this yesterday because I went up to get this award and I am like, you know me, I'm the least shy person. I've got so much fucking confidence. I I do a lot of public speaking. I very rarely get anxious. And yesterday, waiting to find out if we'd won, and I just didn't think we would win. I don't know why I didn't think we'd win, but I almost didn't want to think we would win because I didn't want to be let down.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, let's tap into that.
Yeah. But then we did win, and I literally could usually I'd be like, like walking up on it. But I think I was almost so taken aback that it made me really nervous. Or not, I don't even know if it was nervous. I don't know what it was, but I just was like a bit of a bumbling mess, like not my normal Katie. So I think that there are things, I mean, I used to be, this is a really odd one. Don't know if anyone else is like this, but I just couldn't go to sleep at night because I would overthink. So I'm much better now, but I have got into a really bad habit of having to have sound or mainly watch TV.
Yeah.
So I'd be watching TV every night to go to bed. So people that I've dated or whatever, I'm like, do you mind if we watch TV while I go to sleep? Because I need it to. And last year I really started actually at this fitness camp I did in Mallorca, the body camp Mallorca. It's amazing. Definitely would recommend that, highly recommend that to anyone. It's not just about body, it's about mind and everything. Anyway, when I went there, I put myself in a situation that I knew was going to scare me because I was in a shared room with 4 other people. There's no TVs, like no alcohol. There was no way I could get myself to sleep without just being normal and relying on myself. Now, some of the people actually, interestingly, in my room maybe had similar things because they'd be listening to headphones at night. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put myself in what to me felt like quite a scary place because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have a panic attack while I'm going to sleep and I'm not going to, because I'm not going to be able to switch my mind off. So it's not something, and I fixed it. And now I can go to sleep without watching the TV. I don't always, but I know that I can because I forced myself.
It's the action bit again, isn't it?
To do it. So that probably used to be something that scared me, but not so much now.
And this is actually falls so in line with a lot of the things that I talk about. So I talk about taking ownership is number one. And it's exactly what you did, right? You took ownership, you had a rubbish, it was more than rubbish, horrific situation. Rubbish is a bit like, pretty awful situation. But you took, ownership of that. And then you turned that into action. You actually started to take action. And it's always the first time, isn't it? That first step, that first thing is always the worst. Oh gosh, I remember the first time I got up and spoke. Horrific. And then every time after that was a little bit easier, a little bit easier. And then it's about that repetition.
Yeah.
Right? And you get into the flow of things and you start to actually realise, oh, hang on a second. And then that belief comes. And like you said, you believe in yourself. So perhaps it's because you knew you could do the work you did, because you just telling me how many businesses you set up, how much experience you've had. You knew what you were doing. You'd be a safe bet that you would come in and transform people's businesses. Definitely. Well, you just don't know until you start, do you? And that is the key. And consistent. One, be brave enough to do it, because if you don't do it, you're never going to know. And the second is, you've kind of tapped on into it there, is
consistency. You've got to just keep showing up. It's like going to the gym. It's that muscle memory. Like you've got to keep going. You've got to keep doing it. Like doing it once is fine. But you've got to keep doing it. If you really want to have an impact, if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to, you've got to show up day after day, week after week, month after month. It's the same. I talk about this a lot on the podcast with your marketing tactics. Don't just do one event or one podcast or one, whatever it may article and hope that is going to solve all your marketing problems, because it's not. It's about ongoing engagement, building 100%. An audience, and we talk about that a lot on the podcast. So it's about building an audience. It's about continuing to show up week after week, day after day, understanding the needs of your audience. For me in life, the same. I have to come day after day, understanding what's going on in the market. What do my clients want and need? I've got to continually learn, which is why I like doing the podcast, because I get to learn whilst I'm interviewing people. And it's keeping on, keeping on. Consistency is key, but you've got to get started.
100%. So I want to know, what is important for Katie Street right now?
Yes, what's important for me right now? To drink some water, because I've got a headache from getting too drunk last night. That's one of the things. What's important for me right now? I guess there's lots of things that are important. I guess I am important. I think for the first time, I've been doing loads of deep work on myself. This isn't necessarily for the podcast, but I've been doing loads of really deep work on myself. So to kind of value myself, to give myself the time to be me, but also give myself, the ability to then hopefully help other people, because like I said, I'm getting a bit older now and I want to be able to give back to the world. And, I hope this podcast starts to do that.
100%. So tell me, what does the future look like?
Well, do you know what? Continuing to grow Street, of course. And you can listen to more about Street on another podcast. So listen to the next episode that I do with James, and that kind of delves into our kind of growth plans and what we're working on at Street. So continuing to grow Street, also really focusing in on delivering this podcast. And one day I would love to be, just doing the podcast in some respects. So hopefully, uncovering more interesting stories, really focusing on helping other people by delivering great content and doing great work for our clients, and hopefully having fun and, making sure I've got time for me as part of it.
Having fun. That's important. It gets a bit too serious sometimes.
Yeah, and it shouldn't.
No, and that's when we get into these it's fearful. It's like, let's just relieve all of that and just have a bit of fun. Love it. So what are your tips? Any tips, any tricks, any lasting thoughts?
I guess, just as we kind of wrap this up, I guess the biggest thing that I would say to anyone and everyone is, let's go back to what I said at the beginning. Just fucking do it. Just get started. If you've got an idea, if you're not happy, if you want to, change your life, just go and try. Don't be scared. Because the worst thing in life is regretting something that you didn't do, that you had an itch to do. So my biggest piece of advice is be brave. Obviously, if you need to get a plan in place, get a plan in place. Make sure that you can afford everything and do everything that you need to do. But just go and do it, because if you don't, you will regret it.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, you're a massive inspiration, and I love what you do, and I'm super grateful for your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you, and thank you so much for interviewing me. And I promise we're going to get you back on to do a whole episode around presenting and telling stories, so that my wonderful audience can learn from you as well.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you.
Thanks, darling.